Welcome to our deep dive into Pastor Tobi Adegboyega. I know you've been following his work for a while, so you're already familiar with some of the controversies surrounding his approach. Today, we're looking into Daddy Freeze's firsthand account of his experience with Pastor Toby's community and businesses over in the UK.
Yeah, and what's particularly interesting is that Daddy Freeze starts as a skeptic.
Right.
So we get to go on this journey with him
Exactly.
and see how this model kind of challenges preconceived notions.
So let's jump right into the source material. Daddy Freeze refers to this network of companies as the Nation family, and they are generating serious revenue, millions of pounds annually. What stands out to you about this whole concept of a nation family and its connection to business?
I think what fascinates me is that it goes beyond typical church activities. You go to church and you sing and you listen to a sermon, but this is delving into creating a sustainable ecosystem.
Okay.
It's not just about sermons, it's about an intricate network of 140 companies
Wow.
that provide employment and contribute to the UK economy.
It's kind of mind-boggling to think about the scale of this whole operation.
Yeah.
You mentioned sustainability, and Daddy Freeze talks about telling the earth.
Right.
What does that mean in practice?
It's not about praying for wealth. It's about actively using your talents and resources to create opportunities. It's about seeing your potential and working hard to make it a reality.
Yeah.
Think of it as taking ownership of your skills and using them to build something tangible.
And is building something tangible. Daddy Freeze visited businesses ranging from like Night Shield Security to a music production house, Lim Studio, that's worked with big names like DeVito and Zlatan.
Yeah.
But even with all these different businesses, is there a specific example that really highlights this tilling the earth principle for you?
Yeah. The lunch business is a fantastic example.
Yeah.
They supply major clients like Marvel Studios and Nike.
Wow.
But they also supply their competitors like Eton College.
Oh.
This shows that they're not just operating within their community. They are actively competing in the wider market, demonstrating a real commitment to building legitimate and successful businesses.
Now, we can't talk about Pastor Toby without addressing the obvious display of wealth.
Right.
The Lamborghinis, the McLarens, the luxury homes. It's hard to ignore, right? How does this fit into the tilling the earth concept and Daddy Freeze's initial skepticism?
It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what Daddy Freeze initially grapples with. He's skeptical about the flashy displays. He's wondering if this is just another version of the prosperity gospel.
Right.
But as he spends more time within the community, he begins to understand their perspective.
Right.
They believe that this wealth is a result of their hard work, their dedication to tilling the earth, not a result of praying for riches.
Daddy Freeze observed communal living, multiple families sharing houses and raising children collectively. What are your thoughts on this aspect of their lifestyle and how it connects to their beliefs?
It's almost like a modern-day take on early Christian communities. They prioritize unity love and strict adherence to their values. Think of it this way. Even disagreeing with your spouse can lead to a demotion within the community structure. It demonstrates the level of commitment and accountability they hold each other to.
It's a very different picture of community than many of us are used to.
Right.
What's even more intriguing is that they reject traditional tithing and the idea of praying for financial solutions. Instead, they emphasize taking action and solving problems.
Absolutely. It's about personal responsibility and innovation. One of the leaders in the church, Pastor Sam, emphasizes that God empowers humanity to be successful by utilizing earthly resources and taking ownership of their potential.
Yeah.
They believe in a blend of faith and action.
Yeah. It's a fascinating approach, isn't it? Instead of solely relying on divine intervention, they believe in leveraging their God-given abilities to create solutions and build a better future. And that brings us to another interesting point that Daddy Freeze makes. He talks about feeling a sense of security and trust during like an encounter with police in the UK and contrasting it with the apprehension he typically experiences in Nigeria.
Right.
So what does this reveal about their perspective on faith and societal change?
I think it speaks to this core belief within their community that building a functional and just society can actually reduce the need for constant prayer and intervention.
Okay.
It's about taking proactive steps to create a world where those problems are less likely to arise.
It's like they're saying, let's work towards creating a world where we don't constantly need to pray for things to go right. This ties into another observation that Daddy Freeze makes, the decline of traditional churches in Europe being replaced by nightclubs. What are your thoughts on this shift and its potential implications?
It is a thought-provoking observation. Perhaps there's a growing desire for tangible experiences and solutions, in the physical world, rather than solely seeking answers in the spiritual realm. It raises questions about the evolving role of faith in modern society.
And that leads us to the shared passion of Pastor Toby and Daddy Freeze for nation building.
Yeah.
Even though they're approaching it from different angles. Pastor Toby focuses on the tangible economic side, while Daddy Freeze emphasizes intellectual and doctrinal development.
It highlights this crucial aspect of this model that positive change can happen on multiple levels.
Yeah.
And collaboration across different areas can lead to a more holistic and impactful transformation.
You mentioned positive change. Daddy Freeze talks about being impressed by the caliber of people within the nation family, highlighting the intelligence and drive of the community members.
Yes.
He even met the youngest chartered engineer in the UK.
Wow.
What struck you about the individuals that make up this network?
Well, it challenges the stereotype that some might hold about religious communities being insular or out of touch.
Right.
These individuals are embracing technology innovation and global trends. They are actively contributing to society while staying true to their faith.
It's like they're proving that you can be deeply involved in your faith and community while also being successful and innovative in the secular world.
Absolutely.
And Daddy Freeze repeatedly mentions the genuine warmth and love he witnessed within the community.
Right.
It goes beyond just like business transactions. There's a real sense of shared purpose and joy.
Exactly. That sense of belonging that stood out to me as well. He talks about how everyone from the children to the leaders genuinely care for each other and celebrate each other's successes.
Daddy Freeze even points out that when Pastor Toby arrives at one of the shared houses, the residents are genuinely happy to see him.
Yeah.
It's not this forced reverence.
Right.
It feels more like a family welcoming home a beloved member.
It speaks volumes about the kind of leadership that Pastor Toby embodies. It's not about hierarchy or power. It's about fostering a sense of belonging and shared purpose.
Now, it's important to acknowledge that this community might not appeal to everyone.
Right.
Daddy Freeze is quite upfront about the strictness and high expectations within the group. There's a definite emphasis on adhering to their shared values, and there are consequences for those who don't align.
That's true. It requires a certain level of conformity and commitment that might feel restrictive to some.
It's not a come-as-you-are environment.
Right.
There's a specific set of beliefs and behaviors expected of members.
But that also seems to be part of what makes their model work.
Okay.
Everyone is united, working towards the same goals, holding each other accountable.
Yeah.
It fosters a strong sense of unity and purpose.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Pastor Toby's model, I'm curious, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? What can they glean from this approach, even if they don't necessarily agree with all the specifics?
Well, I think there are several points to ponder. First, it challenges our assumptions about faith-based communities.
Yeah.
They're not just about spiritual matters. They can be forces for economic growth and social change.
It's like that saying, faith without works is dead.
Right.
It's about putting your beliefs into action and creating tangible outcomes in the real world.
Exactly. And secondly, it highlights the power of community and shared values. A strong support system can empower individuals to achieve things they might not be able to do alone.
It's about pooling resources, knowledge, and talent to create something greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely.
And finally, it makes us reconsider our perspective on wealth creation.
Right.
Wealth isn't inherently good or bad.
Exactly.
It's a tool that can be used for different purposes.
Right. It all comes down to intention.
Yeah.
What are you building? Who are you serving?
Yeah.
And how are you using your resources to make a positive impact?
These are powerful questions for everyone to consider, regardless of background or beliefs. Do you think this model could be replicated in other contexts? Or is it unique to Pastor Toby and his specific community?
That's a great question. The core principles, community, shared values, hard work, and tangible results are definitely transferable.
Yeah.
But the implementation will always depend on the specific context, resources, individuals involved.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. It's more about adapting those core principles to your unique circumstances.
Precisely. And it's crucial to remember that success takes time.
Yeah.
This nation family was built over years of dedication, hard work, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
It's about playing the long game.
Yes.
Building trust, fostering a culture of support and accountability.
And that's the crucial takeaway. It's not just about having a good idea. It's about having the right people, the right mindset,
Yeah.
and the commitment to see it through.
To wrap things up, what's the one question or idea you want to leave our listeners with?
What if the future of faith is about actively shaping the world, not escaping from it? What talents and resources do you have that could contribute to building a better society?
It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance, recognizing that we all have something valuable to offer,
Yeah.
and that by working together, we can create something extraordinary.
It's about viewing faith not as a passive belief system, but as a call to action.
Okay.
A catalyst for positive change.
Yeah.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into Pastor Tobi Adegboyega's unique approach to community building and entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Hopefully this exploration has sparked some thought-provoking questions and maybe even inspired some new ideas.
Remember, this wasn't about endorsing any particular belief system or judging anyone's choices.
Exactly.
It was about exploring a different perspective and prompting a deeper consideration of how faith can intersect with our actions in the world.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep striving to make a positive impact in your own unique way. Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating and potentially unsettling, a world where faith and finance collide. You've sent in this BBC Panorama documentary investigating SPAC Nation,
Oh, yeah.
a London-based church that's been making headlines for some pretty serious allegations. I mean, we're talking financial pressure, potential exploitation of young people,
Great.
even whispers of benefit fraud. And, just skimming through the source material here, I'm already seeing red flags. What about you? What's your first impression?
Yeah. This is definitely a case that grabs your attention, I mean, right from the start. What's fascinating to me is how SPAC Nation initially, gained positive media coverage. They were seen as a force for good, working with ex-gang members and promoting pathways to success. But as this documentary digs deeper,
Yeah.
a much darker picture starts to emerge, one that raises some serious questions about the church's financial practices and the motivations of its leaders.
Yeah. Let's start with the basics. The documentary really focuses on this prosperity gospel message that is promoted by SPAC Nation's leader, Pastor Tobi Adegboyega. For those unfamiliar, can you explain what that means and how it might have set the stage for some of these allegations?
Yeah, sure. So the prosperity gospel, it's a belief system that emphasizes material wealth as a sign of God's favor.
Okay.
Basically says the more you donate, the more blessings you'll receive.
So give, and you shall receive.
Exactly.
Right.
And SPAC Nation, under Adegboyega's leadership, really embraced this message. And the documentary strongly suggests that, this emphasis on financial giving may have created a culture where pressure and manipulation could thrive.
Yeah, and that's where this practice of seeding comes into play, right?
Right.
The documentary features former members describing intense pressure to donate large sums of money, often with the promise of even greater returns. Can you unpack that a little bit, the psychology behind seeding and why it might be particularly appealing to vulnerable individuals?
Yeah. It's kind of presented as a spiritual investment strategy. You're essentially told that by giving money to the church, you're sowing a seed that God will multiply and return to you, many times over.
Oh, okay.
Which can be incredibly alluring, especially for people who are facing financial hardship or seeking a sense of control over their circumstances.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
It taps into our deep-seated desires for prosperity and security.
For sure. And the documentary highlights some pretty shocking figures. I mean, the Adigboyega himself is recorded suggesting that a basic monthly donation should be £1,000, with some individuals claiming to give even more than that on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to fathom parting with that kind of money, especially if you're not exactly rolling in it. What does the documentary reveal about the potential consequences for those who couldn't or wouldn't donate at that level?
Well, there's a sense you get from the former members interviewed that there was a definite hierarchy within SPAC Nation. Those who gave the most were publicly acknowledged and praised, and given preferential treatment. So it kind of creates this system where your financial contributions really seem to dictate your status within the community.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see how those who couldn't keep up might have felt pressured, even shamed into giving more than they could afford.
Right. It seems like a recipe for disaster,
Yeah.
creating an environment where people are almost afraid to question financial practices or to speak out against potential wrongdoing. And the documentary digs even deeper into the church's leadership structure, focusing on individuals who are known as generals. They're portrayed as senior figures running community units, including these trap houses. What are these trap houses, and what red flags emerged about the generals running them?
Okay, so on the surface,
Yeah.
SPAC Nation's trap houses are presented as a charitable initiative, to provide housing for members who are struggling to make ends meet. But the documentary raises some serious concerns about the individuals who were chosen to lead these houses.
Yes.
One general, Samuel Aokia, also known as Pastor Sam, has a prior conviction for attempted robbery. And Maria Mola, who ran a women's trap house, has multiple fraud convictions on her record.
Multiple fraud convictions. And the church entrusted her with running a house for vulnerable individuals. I mean, my alarm bells are definitely going off at this point. Were there any attempts to address or justify these generals' past actions?
Yeah, that's a good question. The documentary doesn't explicitly state how the church reconciled these past convictions with their leadership roles. It does mention that Aokia credits Adegboyega with turning his life around, suggesting this narrative of redemption. But when it comes to protecting vulnerable people, past actions often speak louder than words. It certainly raises questions about the church's vetting process and their priorities.
It makes you wonder if these past offenses were somehow overlooked or even seen as qualifications for exploiting others.
Right.
This is where the documentary takes a truly unsettling turn, detailing allegations of members being pressured or manipulated into taking out loans.
Yeah.
What patterns emerged in these accounts, and what does it suggest about the church's financial practices?
Well, what struck me was the consistency in the stories that were shared by former members.
Okay.
Many describe being approached by pastors or generals with seemingly generous offers to help them, start businesses or secure investment opportunities. But these offers often involved taking out substantial loans.
Okay.
With the church leaders playing an active role in the process, even handling paperwork and bank accounts.
Oh.
And the documentary strongly implies that these loans were not for the members' benefit, but were instead funneled back to the church or its leaders.
Okay, let's dive into a few specific cases that stood out to me. The story of Vic Santora's brother is particularly heartbreaking. He was a young football coach, eager to start his own business, and he ended up deeply in debt. Can you walk us through what happened there?
Yeah. So Vic Santoro, who's an ex-offender turned musician and actor, he shared his brother's experience in the documentary.
Oh.
His brother was approached by a pastor who promised to help him set up a coaching business. Now, this pastor, he took it upon himself to register a company in Vic's brother's name, even opened a business account at HSBC.
Oh, wow.
All without him ever filling out a single application.
That level of control over someone's finances is unsettling, to say the least. Did Vic's brother ever question what was happening?
He did express some hesitation, but he explains that, within many ethnic minority communities, there's a strong element of trust, particularly towards those in positions of authority.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he saw the pastor as someone he could rely on, someone who wouldn't deceive him, especially under the guise of faith.
It's a tragic example of how trust can be weaponized and exploited.
Absolutely.
What were the ultimate consequences for Vic's brother?
So the pastor convinced him to withdraw £1,400 from the business account's overdraft facility, claiming it was a consultation fee for setting up the business. But the business itself never materialized.
Of course not.
And the money vanished. Vic's brother was left owing the bank £2,000, a debt he never intended to incur.
That's a classic bait-and-switch tactic, preying on someone's aspirations and their trust in a religious figure. This pattern of manipulation is echoed in Nino's story. He describes being directly asked for £20,000 by Samuel Aokia, the general with the robbery conviction.
Right.
What was Aokia's rationale for requesting such a large sum, and how did he pressure Nino into complying?
Okay, so Aokia told Nino that the money was needed to fund more trap houses for single mothers, which initially, sounds like a charitable cause. However, he quickly shifted gears, suggesting a loan scheme if Nino couldn't give the money directly. He even tried to entice Nino with the promise of a stake in a property investment company if he took out the £20,000 loan. But when Nino asked for proof of this, supposed shareholding, Aokia responded with anger, questioning Nino's trust in him as a man of God. It was a blatant attempt to use his religious authority
Wow.
to coerce Nino into a risky financial decision.
Textbook spiritual manipulation.
Yeah.
Using guilt and fear to silence any doubts or objections.
Exactly.
Thankfully, Nino recognized the red flags and refused to take out the loan. But not everyone was so lucky. The story of Lois, a young woman battling cancer, is particularly disturbing. She was living in one of Aokia's trap houses while undergoing treatment, and she later discovered that a 5,000-pound loan had been taken out in her name
Right.
without her knowledge or consent. How did this even happen, and where did the money go?
This is where the web of exploitation gets even more tangled. It appears that Lois had previously provided her personal and banking details to a recruitment agency while looking for a job. The documentary reveals that this agency was run by Aokia himself. They essentially used her information to secure a loan without her consent. And to make matters worse, the money was transferred to a company run by Aokia's brother, Emmanuel, who was also a pastor in the church. The trail then goes cold,
Of course.
leaving Lois burdened with a debt she never agreed to.
It's a blatant abuse of trust,
Yeah.
exploiting someone who is already in an incredibly vulnerable position.
Right.
It makes you wonder, if they were willing to do this to Lois, how many other vulnerable individuals might have been targeted in similar schemes?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? And this is what the documentary refers to as financial grooming, building trust,
Right.
and then exploiting it for financial gain. And sadly, Lois's story isn't an isolated incident. The documentary also features Sema, a young teaching assistant who was pressured into taking out a 22,000-pound loan for a bogus business investment. He later discovered someone had used his bank details, which he'd only shared with the church, to fraudulently apply for another loan.
Oh, that's terrifying. It's like they saw their members as nothing more than walking ATMs, ready to be drained of their hard-earned money. This level of deception and manipulation is mind-boggling, especially coming from an organization that claims to be rooted in faith and compassion. And then there's the glaring hypocrisy of Adegboyega's lavish lifestyle. At the time of the documentary, he was living in a rented $2.6 million townhouse, while many of his followers were struggling with debt and financial insecurity. What did the documentary uncover about SPAC Nation's finances and how this extravagant lifestyle was being funded?
Yeah, that's where the contrast between the church's message and its leaders' actions becomes really stark. SPAC Nation, being a registered charity, has to file financial accounts with the Charity Commission.
Okay.
And these accounts show a massive surge in fundraising from just £64,000 in 2016 to nearly £1.2 million in 2018. However, the accounts don't clearly explain how Adegboyega's lifestyle is being funded, considering he claims to take no salary from the church.
No salary, but a $2.6 million house. Something doesn't add up here. And the documentary features a former member, Curtis, who provides even more insight into the church's financial practices. What did he reveal about the inner workings of SPAC Nation?
So Curtis was part of Adegboyega's inner circle for 4 years.
Okay.
And he describes witnessing large sums of cash being collected at meetings. You know, pastors arriving with bags of money, almost like a scene from a movie.
Wow.
There was this intense pressure to meet ambitious fundraising targets, with Adegboyega reportedly setting a monthly goal of £1 million.
£1 million a month. That's an astronomical sum. It's no wonder young members were feeling the pressure to contribute, even if it meant taking on risky loans or resorting to desperate measures. This brings us to perhaps the most shocking allegation in the documentary, a potential benefit fraud scheme within the church. The case of Gracie, a young woman who lost her job and could no longer afford to donate, is particularly upsetting. What did the documentary reveal about her experience?
Yeah. Gracie confided in her pastor, Ebo Dugan, about her financial struggles and her inability to continue donating. Instead of offering support or guidance, Dugan allegedly saw this as an opportunity to exploit her situation. He suggested she apply for universal credit, which is the UK's benefit system for those who are unemployed or on low income, using false information to obtain funds that she could then use for seeding. He even went so far as to manipulate her online application, adding false dependents to increase her payout.
It's sickening to think that a pastor would advise someone to commit fraud, especially someone who is already vulnerable and struggling. What were the consequences for Gracie?
Sadly, the Department for Work and Pensions eventually discovered the fraudulent activity, and Gracie was fined £600 and ordered to repay the full £1,200 she had received. She was left to deal with the legal and financial fallout of a scheme orchestrated by people she trusted.
It's a tragic example of how easily someone can be manipulated, especially when they're facing financial hardship and seeking guidance from a religious figure. What's even more alarming is that this case may just be the tip of the iceberg. The documentary hints that other members might have been pressured into similar schemes. It raises the question, how widespread was this alleged benefit fraud, and were there any attempts to hold those responsible accountable?
That's a question that remains unanswered. SPAC Nation claimed to be investigating the matter and promised to give Ebo Dogan, the pastor involved in Gracie's case, an opportunity for a first response. However, Dogan did resign as a trustee of the church shortly after the documentary aired. Whether that was a genuine act of accountability or simply damage control remains to be seen.
It's hard to say, isn't it? The documentary also raises broader concerns about the potential systemic biases at play. Some individuals express the belief that authorities might have been slower to respond if the victims had not been predominantly black youth. This adds another layer of complexity to an already disturbing situation. How did the authorities respond to the allegations raised in the documentary?
The documentary's release certainly sparked a wave of investigations. The Charity Commission, which regulates charities in England and Wales, launched a statutory inquiry into SPAC Nation, ordering them to bank their money and provide detailed explanations of their financial practices. The Metropolitan Police also confirmed they were reviewing the allegations of fraud and other potential offenses, though it's unclear whether any formal charges have been brought against SPAC Nation or its leaders.
So there was some level of official scrutiny, but whether it resulted in meaningful consequences remains to be seen. This entire investigation is a stark reminder that financial exploitation and spiritual abuse can happen anywhere, even within organizations that claim to uphold moral and ethical values. What are some key takeaways from this deep dive that our listeners can apply to their own lives?
I think the most important lesson is that blind faith can be dangerous. It's crucial to approach any organization, religious or otherwise, with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. Don't just take their word for it. Do your own research, ask questions, and look for red flags. Pay attention to how they handle finances, how they treat their members, and whether their leaders are living by the values they preach.
Those are excellent points. It's about being an informed and discerning participant, not a passive follower. What are some specific red flags that might indicate an organization is engaging in harmful financial practices?
First and foremost, any organization that pressures you to donate beyond your means should raise alarm bells. It's your money, and you should never feel coerced or guilt-tripped into giving. Another red flag is a lack of transparency in financial matters. If an organization is hesitant to share information about its income, expenses, and how donations are being used, that's a major cause for concern.
Transparency is absolutely essential for building trust and accountability. What other warning signs should our listeners be aware of?
Be wary of organizations that promote get-rich-quick schemes or promise unrealistic financial returns, especially if those promises are tied to your level of faith or donations. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
And keep an eye out for leadership figures living lavish lifestyles that seem inconsistent with the organization's stated mission or the financial struggles of its members. Like in this case, Adegboyega's $2.6 million house stands in stark contrast to the financial hardships faced by many SPAC Nation members.
Right. That kind of discrepancy should definitely raise questions about where the money is going and whose interests are being served.
This case also highlights the power of social media in both perpetuating and exposing harmful practices. On one hand, SPAC Nation leveraged platforms like Instagram to spread their prosperity gospel message and promote their fundraising targets. But it was also social media that ultimately sparked the BBC investigation, giving a voice to those who felt silenced and providing a platform for their stories to be heard.
It's a reminder that social media can be a double-edged sword. It can be used to amplify harmful messages and normalize exploitative practices, but it can also be a tool for holding powerful individuals and institutions accountable.
So in this digital age, it's crucial to be aware of how social media can influence our perceptions and behaviors, both positively and negatively. It's about being critical consumers of information and using these platforms to empower ourselves and our communities.
Absolutely. This case underscores the need for vigilance, critical thinking, and strong safeguarding measures within religious organizations. But these principles can be applied to any organization or group where power dynamics and financial vulnerabilities intersect.
This conversation has brought up a lot of disturbing details, but I think it's important to also focus on solutions. How can we empower individuals to recognize and avoid these types of situations in the first place?
Education is key. We need to be having open and honest conversations about financial literacy, healthy boundaries within organizations, and the red flags of potential exploitation. We need to teach young people how to critically evaluate financial advice, even when it comes from trusted figures within their communities.
And we need to create a culture where questioning authority, especially when it comes to financial matters, is not seen as disrespectful, but as a sign of healthy discernment.
It's about empowering individuals to be their own advocates, to trust their instincts, and to seek help if they feel pressured or uncomfortable. There are resources available, like financial counseling services and legal aid organizations, that can provide guidance and support to those who have been victimized.
This deep dive into the SPAC Nation investigation has been both fascinating and deeply unsettling. It's exposed a dark underbelly of manipulation and exploitation within a religious organization, leaving a trail of victims struggling to rebuild their lives. And while the specific details of this case are shocking, it's a reminder that these issues are not isolated.
Financial and spiritual abuse can happen anywhere, and it's up to all of us to be vigilant, informed, and proactive in protecting ourselves and our communities.
We need to foster a culture of transparency, accountability, and critical thinking, not just in religious settings, but in all aspects of our lives.
That's a powerful message to carry forward. It's been a thought-provoking deep dive.
And to you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge and awareness to navigate these complex issues and to protect yourself and those you care about from any form of exploitation.
Stay informed, stay vigilant, and always trust your instincts.
Yeah.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? This is what the documentary refers to as financial grooming, building trust and then exploiting it for financial gain. And sadly, Lois's story isn't an isolated incident. The documentary also features Sema, a young teaching assistant who was pressured into taking out a 22,000-pound loan for a bogus business investment. He later discovered that someone had used his bank details, which he only shared with the church, to fraudulently apply for another loan.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like they saw their members as nothing more than walking ATMs ready to be drained of their hard-earned money.
Mm-hmm.
This level of deception and manipulation is mind-boggling, especially coming from an organization that claims to be rooted in faith and compassion. And then there's the glaring hypocrisy of Adegboyega's lavish lifestyle. At the time of the documentary, he was living in a rented 2.6 million pound house, while many of his followers were struggling with debt and financial insecurity. What did the documentary uncover about SPAC Nation's finances and how this extravagant lifestyle was being funded?
Yeah, that's where the contrast between the church's message and its leaders' actions becomes really, really stark. SPAC Nation, being a registered charity, has to file financial accounts with the Charity Commission.
Okay.
And these accounts show a massive surge in fundraising from just 64,000 pounds in 2016 to nearly 1.2 million pounds in 2018. However, the accounts don't clearly explain how Adegboyega's lifestyle is being funded, considering he claims to take no salary from the church.
No salary, but a 2.6 million pound house. Something doesn't add up here.
Yeah.
And the documentary features a former member, Curtis, who provides even more insight into the church's financial practices. What did he reveal about the inner workings of SPAC Nation?
Curtis was part of Adegboyega's inner circle for 4 years, and he describes witnessing large sums of cash being collected at meetings, pastors arriving with bags of money, almost like a scene from a movie.
Oh, wow.
There was this intense pressure to meet these ambitious fundraising targets, with Adegboyega reportedly setting a monthly goal of 1 million.
£1 million a month. That's an astronomical sum. It's no wonder young members were feeling the pressure to contribute, even if it meant taking on risky loans or resorting to desperate measures. This brings us to perhaps the most shocking allegation in the documentary, a potential benefit fraud scheme within the church. The case of Gracie, a young woman who lost her job and could no longer afford to donate, is particularly upsetting. What did the documentary reveal about her experience?
Yeah, Gracie confided in her pastor, Ibo Dogan, about her financial struggles and her inability to continue donating. Instead of offering support or guidance, Dugan allegedly saw this as an opportunity to exploit her situation.
Oh, wow.
He suggested she apply for universal credit, which is the UK's benefit system, for those who are unemployed or on low income, using false information to obtain funds that she could then use for seeding. He even went so far as to manipulate her online application,
Oh, my goodness.
adding false dependents to increase her payout.
That is just despicable. It's sickening to think that a pastor would advise someone to commit fraud, especially someone who is already vulnerable and struggling. What were the consequences for Gracie?
Sadly, the Department for Work and Pensions eventually discovered the fraudulent activity, and Gracie was fined £600 and ordered to repay the full £1,200 that she had received. She was left to deal with the legal and financial fallout of a scheme orchestrated by people she trusted.
It's a tragic example of how easily someone can be manipulated, especially when they're facing financial hardship and seeking guidance from a religious figure. What's even more alarming is that this case may just be the tip of the iceberg. The documentary hints that other members might have been pressured into similar schemes. It raises the question, how widespread was this alleged benefit fraud?
Right.
And were there any attempts to hold those responsible accountable?
That's a question that remains unanswered.
Yeah.
SPAC Nation claimed to be investigating the matter and promised to give Ebo Duggan, the pastor involved in Gracie's case, an opportunity for a first response. However, Duggan did resign as a trustee of the church shortly after the documentary aired. Whether that was a genuine act of accountability or simply damage control remains to be seen.
It's hard to say, isn't it? The documentary also raises broader concerns about the potential systemic biases at play. Some individuals express the belief that authorities might have been slower to respond if the victims had not been predominantly Black youth.
Right.
This adds another layer of complexity to an already disturbing situation. How did the authorities respond to the allegations raised in the documentary?
Well, the documentary's release certainly sparked a wave of investigations. The Charity Commission, which regulates charities in England and Wales, launched a statutory inquiry into SPAC Nation, ordering them to bank their money and provide detailed explanations of their financial practices. The Metropolitan Police also confirmed they were reviewing the allegations of fraud and other potential offenses, though it's unclear whether any formal charges have been brought against SPAC Nation or its leaders.
So there was some level of official scrutiny, but whether it resulted in meaningful consequences remains to be seen.
Right.
This entire investigation is a stark reminder that financial exploitation and spiritual abuse can happen anywhere, even within organizations that claim to uphold moral and ethical values. What are some key takeaways from this deep dive that our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Right. I think the most important lesson is that blind faith can be dangerous. It's crucial to approach any organization, religious or otherwise, with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. Don't just take their word for it. Do your own research. Ask questions and look for red flags.
Those are excellent points. It's about being an informed and discerning participant, not a passive follower. What are some specific red flags that might indicate an organization is engaging in harmful financial practices?
First and foremost, any organization that pressures you to donate beyond your means should raise alarm bells. It's your money, and you should never feel coerced or guilt-tripped into giving. Another red flag is a lack of transparency in financial matters. If an organization is hesitant to share information about its income, expenses, and how donations are being used, that's a major cause for concern.
Transparency is absolutely essential for building trust and accountability. What other warning signs should our listeners be aware of?
Be wary of organizations that promote get-rich-quick schemes or promise unrealistic financial returns, especially if those promises are tied to your level of faith or donations. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
And keep an eye out for leadership figures living lavish lifestyles that seem inconsistent with the organization's stated mission or the financial struggles of its members. Like in this case, Adegboyega's $2.6 million townhouse stands in stark contrast to the financial hardships faced by many SPAC Nation members.
Right. That kind of discrepancy should definitely raise questions about where the money is going and whose interests are being served.
This case also highlights the power of social media in both perpetuating and exposing harmful practices. On one hand, SPAC Nation leveraged platforms like Instagram to spread their prosperity gospel message and promote their fundraising targets. But it was also social media that ultimately sparked the BBC investigation, giving a voice to those who felt silenced and providing a platform for their stories to be heard.
It's a reminder that social media can be a double-edged sword. It can be used to amplify harmful messages and normalize exploitative practices, but it can also be a tool for holding powerful individuals and institutions accountable.
So in this digital age, it's crucial to be aware of how social media can influence our perceptions and behaviors, both positively and negatively. It's about being critical consumers of information and using these platforms to empower ourselves and our communities.
Absolutely. This case underscores the need for vigilance, critical thinking, and strong safeguarding measures within religious organizations. But these principles can be applied to any organization or group where power dynamics and financial vulnerabilities intersect.
This conversation has brought up a lot of disturbing details, but I think it's important to also focus on solutions. How can we empower individuals to recognize and avoid these types of situations in the first place?
Education is key. We need to be having open and honest conversations about financial literacy, healthy boundaries within organizations, and the red flags of potential exploitation.
Yeah.
We need to teach young people how to critically evaluate financial advice, even when it comes from trusted figures within their communities.
Right. And we need to create a culture where questioning authority, especially when it comes to financial matters, is not seen as disrespectful, but as a sign of a healthy discernment.
It's about empowering individuals to be their own advocates, to trust their instincts, and to seek help if they feel pressured or uncomfortable. There are resources available like financial counseling services and legal aid organizations that can provide guidance and support to those who have been victimized.
This deep dive into the SPAC Nation investigation has been both fascinating and deeply unsettling. It's exposed a dark underbelly of manipulation and exploitation within a religious organization, leaving a trail of victims struggling to rebuild their lives. Yeah. And while the specific details of this case are shocking, it's a reminder that these issues are not isolated.
Financial and spiritual abuse can happen anywhere, and it's up to all of us to be vigilant, informed, and proactive in protecting ourselves and our communities.
We need to foster a culture of transparency, accountability, and critical thinking, not just in religious settings, but in all aspects of our lives.
That's a powerful message to carry forward. It's been a thought-provoking deep dive.
And to you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge and awareness to navigate these complex issues and to protect yourself and those you care about from any form of exploitation.
Stay informed, stay vigilant, and always trust your instincts.
This has been a pretty heavy conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's crucial to address the aftermath of this documentary and what's happened since it aired back in 2019.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's important to understand if there's been any accountability or if any systemic changes have been made as a result of these allegations.
So what happened to SPAC Nation after the documentary aired? Were there any concrete consequences for the church or its leadership?
Well, the documentary's revelations definitely had a significant impact. In 2022, the Charity Commission, which regulates charities in England and Wales, concluded its inquiry into SPAC Nation. Their findings were pretty damning.
What did the Charity Commission find?
They uncovered serious misconduct and mismanagement in how the charity was run.
Okay.
This included a lack of financial controls, a failure to properly safeguard beneficiaries, and concerns about transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
So their findings essentially validated many of the concerns that were raised in the documentary.
That's a pretty serious indictment of the organization. What actions were taken based on these findings?
Well, the Charity Commission issued an official action plan, which required SPAC Nation to implement a whole range of reforms. These reforms included improving their financial management practices, strengthening their safeguarding policies to better protect vulnerable individuals, and ensuring greater transparency in their operations. They also appointed an interim manager to oversee the implementation of this action plan and to ensure that SPAC Nation complies with charity law and regulations.
So it sounds like there was some level of external intervention to try and rectify the situation. But what about the individuals involved in the alleged wrongdoing? Were there any personal consequences for Adegboyega or the other leaders?
Yeah, that's where the situation gets a little more complicated. The Charity Commission stopped short of removing Adegboyega from his leadership position. However, they did impose stricter oversight and required the church to implement significant changes to its governance structure.
It's interesting that they didn't remove him, despite the serious nature of the allegations. I guess it speaks to the complexities of balancing religious freedom with the need to protect vulnerable individuals.
Yeah.
What about the criminal investigations that were initiated after the documentary? Did any of those result in in charges or convictions?
To the best of my knowledge, no. No criminal charges have been brought against anyone associated with SPAC Nation
Okay.
related to the allegations in the documentary. It's possible that investigations are still ongoing or that authorities are facing challenges in gathering sufficient evidence to meet the burden of proof required for criminal prosecution.
It must be frustrating for those who are harmed to see a lack of legal accountability.
Yeah.
But at the very least, the public exposure and the subsequent investigations seem to have forced some changes within the organization.
I think that's a fair assessment. This case serves as a stark reminder that even institutions that claim to be founded on faith and compassion can be susceptible to corruption and abuse.
It really underscores the need for vigilance, critical thinking, and a willingness to question authority, even within religious contexts. We can't just blindly accept what we're told,
right?
Especially when it comes to matters of finance and personal well-being.
Absolutely. This deep dive has highlighted the importance of being informed consumers, whether we're engaging with religious organizations, charities, or any other group that asks for our trust and our financial support.
So what are some key things our listeners should keep in mind as they navigate these complex issues?
I think the most important takeaway is the power of asking questions.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to scrutinize an organization's financial practices,
Right.
to ask about their leadership's background, or to clarify anything that seems unclear or suspicious.
And if something feels off, or if you're being pressured into doing something that makes you uncomfortable, trust your instincts.
Yeah, there's no shame in walking away from a situation that feels unsafe or exploitative. Your financial security and emotional well-being are paramount.
This entire SPAC Nation case has been a powerful reminder that knowledge is power. The more informed we are about potential risks and red flags, the better equipped we are to protect ourselves and our communities from harm.
It's about fostering a culture of transparency, accountability, and critical thinking, not just within religious institutions, but in all aspects of our lives.
This has been a truly eye-opening deep dive into a complex and disturbing case. Thank you for sharing your insights with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And to you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has empowered you to approach all organizations with a critical eye, to ask tough questions, and to prioritize your own safety and well-being. Remember, true faith should never come at the expense of your financial security or your peace of mind. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Okay, so are you ready?
Yeah.
Get ready for a deep dive, folks.
Yeah, dive.
Into a story that's,
Oh, yeah.
honestly, it's pretty wild.
I know.
So our subject today
dear.
is Pastor Toby Adigba.
Oh, wow.
You know him.
I do. Yeah, he's quite a character.
He is.
Yeah.
UK-based Nigerian cleric
Right.
who's stirring up a lot of controversy.
I've heard a lot about him.
Yeah, and
I've been following this.
we're going to unpack a recent
Okay.
televised interview he gave.
All right.
It's our only source today,
Okay.
but it's pretty juicy.
Juicy. All right.
So
Lay it on me.
we're going to try to figure out who he is,
Mm-hmm.
what his SPAC Nation ministry is all about.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why there are so many accusations flying around.
Oh, there are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard bits and pieces.
It's a lot.
So what do we have? Like a transcript? Or?
Yeah. We've got the transcript
Okay.
from the interview.
That's good.
It's really interesting.
Okay.
Because,
Lay it on me.
like, right off the bat,
Yeah.
Adigba tries to position himself
Yeah.
as both a traditional pastor
Traditional. Okay.
and someone
At the same time.
who is, like,
Yeah.
shaking things up.
Oh, so he wants to be seen as both.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
So how is he doing that?
Well, he comes from a Pentecostal background.
Pentecostal background, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he claims he's like had to evolve his methods
Evolve his message.
to reach
Okay.
Black youth in the UK who
Okay.
are facing like
Yeah.
unique challenges.
Right. Unique challenges facing the Black youth.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
And so he talks about
Um,
seeing gang violence
yeah.
and drug dealing
Mm-hmm.
firsthand.
Oh, wow. So, like, he was involved with it, or
No. Like
Okay.
he was like,
she saw it around him?
he saw it around him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's saying traditional churches weren't doing enough.
Okay.
And he felt like he had to step in. He felt like he had to fill the gap.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But then that's where things take a turn,
her.
because he embraces things
What kind of thing?
that most people wouldn't consider very pastorally.
Oh, he's got
Unorthodox.
Yeah, a taste for luxury.
Okay, like what kind of luxury? Like
Yeah.
fancy cars or?
Fancy cars.
Okay.
Hangs out with secular musicians.
Uh-huh.
And his church is like...
So he's kind of embracing like the secular world a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
heavily involved in
Hmm.
business ventures.
Interesting. So it's not just like your typical
No.
Sunday service kind of church.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
All right. So how does he justify this?
So
Yeah.
his justification
Okay.
that he's mirroring
Mirrored
the
out
tactics of those he's trying to reach.
the people he's trying to reach. So
Yeah.
like the youth.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
wants to like draw young people away
Away from...
from the material wealth
That's interesting.
that gangs offer
Okay.
and guide them towards something.
Something positive.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's using kind of like the same
Yeah.
tools to try to pull them in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He even compares himself to Jesus,
He compares himself to Jesus.
who
Oh,
was
God.
criticized
Yes.
for associating with sinners.
Right, right.
So
That's a bold comparison.
very bold.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
does that justification hold water?
I don't know. Does it... I mean,
Is this genuine outreach,
yeah.
or is it
Is
a
there something calculated?
calculated
Yeah.
about the image he's projecting?
Like, is he deliberately cultivating this image to
Yeah.
appeal to these
Yeah.
young people?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he does say
So what does he say? Yeah, whatever his
that
is.
he's helped countless young people turn their lives
Turn
around,
their lives around. Okay.
getting them off the streets
Mm-hmm.
and into,
Productive roles.
yeah.
Okay.
And he even cites statistics
Oh, wow.
showing SPAC Nation's impact on
On
reducing knife crime.
knife crime. Wow. Okay.
Supposedly
Supposedly.
surpassing the efforts of,
The Met Police.
yeah, the Metropolitan Police.
Wow, that's a big claim.
Big claim.
Okay.
But then you've got the other side,
The other side of the coin?
Yeah.
All right, what's that?
the allegations
Allegations.
that are really serious.
Okay, lay it on me. What are they?
The most concerning ones
Okay.
are about
That-
financial misconduct.
Financial misconduct. Okay.
Millions of pounds unaccounted for.
Millions. Wow.
A lack of transparency in SPAC Nation's finances.
So we're talking some serious money here.
Yeah.
Okay.
In
but
both the UK Charity
the
Commission,
Charity Commission, right?
which regulates charities, and the Home Office.
Okay, so the government is involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Responsible for immigration and security.
Right.
Have raised concerns.
They've raised concerns, so there's official concern about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these allegations
Yeah.
triggered a full-blown
A
investigation
full-blown investigation.
by the Charity Commission.
A Charity Commission got involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Adigba denies everything.
Denies everything, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
He claims
Okay.
the Charity Commission
Mm-hmm.
revoked SPAC Nation's charitable status
They revoked their charitable status.
because they weren't getting
They weren't getting enough
enough donations.
donations.
Not because of financial shenanigans.
Not because of anything shady.
Right.
Okay.
He also says that specific accusations
Yeah.
of
yeah.
missing funds
Missing funds, right?
are completely baseless.
Baseless. So he's saying they're making it up, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing.
What's that?
He says he's got
Okay.
documents
Documents.
and evidence to
Definitely.
prove his innocence.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
nobody's been officially charged or
Charged.
investigated by the police.
Not even investigated.
So
So is he using connections to dodge consequences?
that's the question.
Or is there really no evidence?
Yeah, is he just that good?
That good? Or
Or is there something else going on?
something fishy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's the twist about Adigans.
Oh, there's a twist.
Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Immigration status.
Immigration. Okay.
So judges
Mm-hmm.
have ruled his stay in the UK
Illegal.
illegal.
Wow. Okay.
And he's fighting deportation.
He's fighting deportation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You wouldn't know it from his attitude, though.
What do you mean?
He seems completely unfazed. Unfazed.
Unfair. Well,
Like, this isn't even phasing him.
okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
He even claims
What not?
that his immigration status
Yeah.
is being regularized.
Regularized like right now?
Yeah.
That we speak.
Bold.
Yeah.
Insider information, or
Or is he just like
is he delusional?
overly optimistic? Yeah.
It's like,
It's hard to tell.
yeah, it's hard to tell.
Okay, so he's confident.
Very confident.
Yeah.
He's citing
Fine.
his community work,
Okay, community work.
his marriage to a British citizen.
Ah, married a Brit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And ongoing legal challenges.
So he's got reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As reasons why he should stay.
Right.
But a tribunal
A tribunal.
already ruled against him.
Oh, so he lost already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is hard to ignore.
Yeah, that's hard to ignore.
So what's
That-
going to do?
I don't know.
Appeal it or...
I don't know, but this whole situation
This whole situation,
has huge implications
Wow.
for SPAC Nation.
right, for his ministry
Yeah.
and the people in it.
And its members.
Right. Right.
Right. If he gets deported,
If he gets deported.
a
yeah.
church and all its projects
Yeah.
are in jeopardy.
Right.
And then,
And then there's the accusations.
yeah, that SPAC Nation is actually
A cult.
a cult.
Wow. Okay.
So what do they say?
Several former members
Okay.
have come forward
Come forward
with
with
some alarming stories.
alarming stories. All right.
They describe SPAC Nation
Okay.
as being
Manipulative.
manipulative
Okay.
and coercive.
Coercive.
And some even say
Yeah.
they're afraid to speak out
Afraid to speak out
for fear of retaliation.
for fear of what will happen
Yeah.
to them.
Okay. And some even suggest
Yeah.
that there are gang members.
Gang members involved.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who act as enforcers for the church.
So there's like a darker side to this.
Hey,
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
disturbing. Really disturbing.
Yeah.
If it's true,
Yeah.
it paints a completely different picture
Yeah.
than the supportive community.
The one that he's presenting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Adigan's response.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, is to dismiss these claims.
Dismiss the claims.
Yeah, he calls them disgruntled ex-members
Disgruntled.
with vendettas.
Okay.
And he says
Yes.
SPAC Nation has an independent panel
Independent panel.
to handle grievances,
Okay.
and that
Yeah.
they haven't found any evidence to support these claims.
Okay.
But that leaves us with a huge question.
What's that?
Are these isolated incidents
Isolated or signs of a systemic problem
within SPAC Nation?
within SPAC Nation? Yeah,
It's a big, pretty unsettling thought.
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And then
then
it all gets even murkier
murkier
when you
Okay.
factor in the political angle.
the political angle, all right?
There are allegations that Adigan
Okay.
has close ties
To
to the Conservative Party
to the Conservative Party. Wow.
and that his legal problems
Yeah.
are politically motivated.
Whoa. So it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's admitted to advocating for the black community
Okay.
within
Political circle.
political circles,
Right. Yeah.
but he denies any specific loyalty to a particular party.
Okay. So he's not a card-carrying member or anything,
Right.
but he's involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
He even claims that a rival politician from another party,
Oh, so he's saying it's the other guys?
yeah,
Okay.
is behind a
Yeah.
smear campaign
Two.
to ruin him.
Take him down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And SPAC Nation.
Interesting.
Okay.
So he's painting himself as like
And
a
the victim.
victim, yeah,
Yeah.
of a political witch hunt.
Okay.
Okay.
But is that the truth?
Yeah. Is that the truth?
Or is it a convenient way
to deflect
to deflect from
the allegation.
the allegations against him
Right.
without concrete evidence?
Mhm.
It's difficult to say.
It's hard to know
Yeah.
what's really going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's
That's interesting.
how he constantly
Yeah.
frames himself as a fighter.
As a fighter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Someone who's going up against powerful forces,
Powerful forces trying to
trying to silence him.
silence him. Okay.
And that seems to resonate with his followers
Okay.
who see him as a champion
As a champion
for their community.
their community.
Yeah. Someone who's willing to
Keep
challenge.
status quo.
Yeah.
Right.
And that clash
Yeah.
between traditional values
Yeah.
and modern society.
That tension.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also plays out in Adigan's views on homosexuality.
On homosexuality, all right.
He's been very outspoken about his opposition
Okay.
to same-sex marriage,
Right. Same-sex marriage.
basing his stance on
Yeah.
a traditional heterosexual interpretation of marriage.
Right. Okay. So he's very
Traditional in his views.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this puts him in direct conflict
In direct conflict with
the increasingly
the role
liberal
and God values
social values of the UK.
of the UK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to wonder
Yeah.
if this stance is
A calculated move,
Yeah.
or if he's genuinely
at a step
out of step.
with the times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another example
Another example.
of how Adigan seems to.
Embrace contradictions.
Yes.
Okay.
He's clearly comfortable.
Comfortable with like
Yeah.
elements of modern culture.
Yeah. Modern culture.
Okay.
Like music and fashion.
Right. Music and fashion.
But then he holds on tight
to
to traditional religious beliefs.
traditional beliefs.
That clash with mainstream views.
Mainstream views. Yeah. So he's picking and choosing.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
And it creates this fascinating tension
Yeah.
within his persona
Okay.
and
right.
within SPAC Nation itself.
Right. Within his ministry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it raises questions
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
The limits of tolerance.
Limits of tolerance.
The role of religion in modern society.
Yeah.
And
the potential for conflict.
oh.
When deeply held beliefs collide.
Right, with the modern world.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's almost like he's constantly testing the boundaries. Pushing to see how far he can go.
Yeah.
Now his views on Nigeria.
Okay.
Offer a bit of a contrast.
Oh, a contrast. Okay. So.
He acknowledges the problems facing his home country.
Right. Yeah.
But he gets defensive.
Defensive?
About what he sees as overly negative portrayals.
In the West.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Western media.
So he's like protective.
Yeah. He's very
situation.
protective of Nigeria.
Interesting.
It almost seems like
he takes it.
He takes it personally.
Personally.
When people criticize Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
And he pushes back.
He pushes back.
Pretty hard.
Okay.
He specifically praises President Tinubu's focus on supporting small businesses.
Supporting small businesses.
Okay. Saying that will ultimately strengthen
the Nigerian economy.
Yeah. Okay. So it makes you think about what his long-term plans might be.
Long-term plans.
Yeah.
Interesting.
While he's fighting to stay in the UK.
Yeah.
He also seems pretty connected to Nigeria.
Right.
Even suggesting
that he might go back.
That he'll eventually return.
Okay.
So we've got this complex picture emerging.
Yeah.
He's a pastor with a taste for luxury.
Uh-huh.
A community leader.
Facing
serious allegations.
Right.
A fighter who claims to be a victim.
Okay.
And a man caught between two cultures.
Yeah. It's a lot going on.
What are we supposed to make of all this?
That's the question, isn't
it? It's important to remember.
What's important?
That what we've heard is just
his side.
Adigan's side of the story.
Okay.
He's clearly
gifted speaker.
Yeah.
For sure.
He's using this interview to present himself.
In the best possible light.
Right. He comes across as incredibly confident.
Yeah.
Even defiant.
He's
not backing down an inch.
He's standing his ground.
Yes.
Okay.
But there are still
so many
unanswered questions.
Unanswered questions, yeah.
Like,
where's the evidence?
The evidence he claims to have?
Yeah. If there's genuine financial wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Why haven't the police stepped in?
Right. Why hasn't there been any charges?
Yeah. And what about the people
who feel
they were harmed?
SPAC Nation.
SPAC Nation.
Yeah.
Their stories matter too.
They matter too.
Absolutely.
We can't form a judgment
based
on a single interview.
Right.
Especially
when the subject
is clearly
controlling the narrative.
Trying to control the narrative.
Yeah. So where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We've got this web of accusations, denials, and contradictions.
It's a tangled web.
Yeah.
So what do we do with all this information?
Like, I don't know what to think.
Well, I think this deep dive is just the beginning.
Okay.
We've laid out the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But it's up to each of you
to
decide how they fit together.
So,
do you believe Adigan?
Yeah.
Do you see him as a visionary leader or a master manipulator?
It's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
Not sure.
What would you do?
Yeah.
To dig deeper?
I think I need to hear from some other people.
Yeah.
Like the people who have left SPAC Nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And form your own opinion.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just about one man.
Right.
Adigan's fate affects the lives of all the people who found community and purpose within SPAC Nation.
Yeah.
They're depending on him.
Yeah.
And this story is far from over.
I bet.
We'll be back with more of Adigan's story.
I'm ready.
Hold on to your hats.
Oh, boy.
Because it's about to get even more intense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Buckle up, folks.
Buckle up. So welcome back.
I'm sure you've been turning things over in your mind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. After that first part, definitely.
Every time we think we're getting a handle on Adigan, something else pops up.
Oh, yeah.
And makes us question.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, he's quite the character.
He is. It feels like we're peeling back layers of an onion.
Layers of an onion, I like that.
And we're not even sure.
What's at the center?
Yeah, that's the thing about charismatic figures.
Yeah.
Like Adigan, right?
They're often shrouded in contradictions.
Contradictions, yeah.
And the line between truth and fabrication can get very blurry.
Absolutely.
It's also important to remember that this one interview only gives us a limited perspective.
Yeah. Limited. Yeah, we're just seeing a little sliver
Enough.
of the whole picture.
There's a much bigger picture out there.
Oh, for sure.
It's almost like we're watching a drama unfold in real time.
I know. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got Adigba in the middle of it all,
Right at the center.
juggling these accusations, legal battles, and the unwavering loyalty of his followers.
That's what's interesting too, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does he maintain that
I know.
loyalty
It's wild.
with all this going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the impact.
The impact on the people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the people involved.
The people around him.
What happens to those who depend on SPAC Nation
Yeah.
if it all falls apart?
That's a good question. Where do they go
Right.
if their whole support system crumbles?
Yeah. Where do they go for support and guidance?
It's like what happens to the flock when the shepherd is gone.
That's a good point. Let's dig into Adigba's
Okay.
relationship with politics.
Politics, all right.
There were accusations
Yeah.
about him having close ties to the Conservative Party
The Conservative Party. Okay.
and using his influence for personal gain.
So using it to his advantage.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He denied any specific allegiance,
Okay.
but you can't deny his presence.
Right, he was there at Conservative Party events.
Yes.
Yeah, like in the photos and everything.
Yeah. He's even admitted
Trying to build relationships with politicians.
with politicians.
Okay.
So that raises questions.
About his motives.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's he really up to?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, he was
yeah.
even seated behind the prime minister
Oh, wow.
at one of their conventions.
Prime Minister, that's
Yeah.
pretty high up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not just a coincidence.
That's not an accident.
No.
Yeah.
And remember his claim that,
Rival politician.
a rival politician
He's behind this.
is behind a smear campaign.
To discredit him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's saying it's all a setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
He even names a specific MP.
Oh, really? He names names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who he claims is
Orchestrating the whole thing out of revenge.
out of revenge.
Wow, that's a bold move.
So Adigba says this MP is motivated by
Oh,
a
right.
personal vendetta
Because
Adigba opposed some of their policies.
Oh, he went against them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
supported rival candidates.
Oh, wow. So he actively campaigned against this person?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's bad blood there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bold claim.
Bold claim, yeah.
Adds another layer of intrigue
To this whole saga.
to the whole saga.
Yeah.
But is there any truth to it?
The question is
Yeah.
he really a victim?
Could Adigba be a victim of political persecution?
Or is this just another attempt to
Deflect blame and play the victim.
to kind of get sympathy?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to know what to believe.
I know it's hard to know what's real and what's not
Yeah.
without seeing some...
Hard evidence.
Yeah.
Some proof.
And we have to remember that Adigba doesn't shy away.
From sharing his views.
Yeah, from sharing his own political views.
Right.
He can be
Outspoken.
pretty outspoken.
Yeah.
And some of his stances,
Have gotten him in trouble.
have definitely landed him in hot water.
Okay.
Think about his comments on homosexuality.
Homosexuality, right?
That's a
Prime example.
prime example.
Yeah.
He was very clear about his belief
Okay.
that marriage
Yeah.
should be between
A man and a woman
a man and a woman.
based on
His interpretation
his interpretation of the Bible.
of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so very traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he really didn't hold back.
When he talked about his opposition
To same
to
sense.
same-sex marriage,
Yeah.
that's a stance
That's a stance that puts him
at odds
at odds
What?
with the increasingly liberal values
liberal values
of the UK.
of the UK, right? So
Yeah.
he's kind of swimming upstream there
Yes.
a little bit,
It's like he's constantly
straddling the line
straddling this line
between
between traditional
traditional
and traditional values. Yeah, it's got one foot in each world.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Elements of contemporary culture.
Yeah, like there's music and fashion.
music, fashion,
But then he digs in his heels
on these traditional beliefs
and these traditional beliefs
that clash
clash with mainstream society.
with the modern world.
Yeah, it creates this tension
Within him.
within himself.
Yeah.
Right.
And within SPAC Nation.
And within his ministry.
It makes you think about
Yeah.
the limits of tolerance.
Yeah. How much
Have the role of religion
religion
in today's world.
in the modern world, right?
What happens when deeply held beliefs
Yeah.
collide?
Head on.
Yeah. With evolving social norms.
Yeah, the changing world.
It's almost like he's deliberately poking at that tension.
Poking at it.
Yeah,
It's
to
really hard.
see how much he can push
Push those boundaries.
The boundaries.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to his views on Nigeria,
Okay.
things get a little more nuanced.
Nuances.
He acknowledges the challenges Nigeria faces.
Right. The problems.
But he gets pretty defensive
defensive
about what he sees as
unfair portrayals.
Yeah, unfair negative portrayals
In the media.
in the Western media.
Okay, so he's sensitive about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he takes it
Personally.
as a personal attack
Oh, wow.
when people criticize Nigeria.
So he's very protective.
Yeah.
Nigeria.
He really
To
jumps
defend it?
to the country's defense
Okay.
and highlights.
All the positive things.
Yeah.
Okay.
That he feels outsiders overlook.
Right, they don't see the full picture.
Yeah. He was particularly complimentary
Yeah.
of President Tinubu's policies,
Okay.
especially
Yeah.
the focus on supporting small businesses.
Small businesses, okay.
He seems to think that
That'll help.
that will have a big positive impact on the Nigerian economy.
So he's optimistic
Yeah.
about Nigeria's future.
Yeah.
Okay.
This makes you wonder what
His plans are.
what Adigan's endgame might be.
End game.
He's fighting tooth and nail
Yeah.
to remain in the UK,
Right.
but he also keeps talking about returning
To Nigeria.
to Nigeria at some point,
Eventually.
almost as if it's
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's confusing, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't returning to Nigeria be admitting defeat?
In his fight to stay in the UK.
Yeah, in his battle against deportation.
Right.
And wouldn't it weaken his claims
Of innocence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and undermine his position in the UK?
Like if he's saying he's innocent
Yeah,
and then he just leaves.
right.
It's like, well,
What was all that about?
what were you fighting for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But maybe he sees it differently.
How could he?
Maybe he thinks returning on his own terms
Okay.
after clearing his name
Right.
and achieving his goals in the UK
Okay.
would be a stronger statement.
Like he's in control.
Yeah, like he's not being forced out.
Yeah.
He's choosing to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
he genuinely believes
His destiny
that his destiny lies in Nigeria.
lies in Nigeria regardless
Yeah.
of what happens here.
Regardless of what happens with these legal battles,
Wow.
it's hard to say for sure.
It's hard to say.
One thing that's clear is
What's clear?
that Adigan is incredibly ambitious.
Oh, yeah, he's a go-getter.
Yeah.
For sure.
He seems driven by a mix of
Well, what?
personal goals
Yeah.
and a desire to
Yes.
make a difference on a larger scale.
On a bigger stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sees himself as a leader.
Yeah.
A change maker.
Someone who's destined for.
Great things.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that ambition seems to be at the root of
Yeah.
both his achievements
Mhm.
and the controversies
That follow him.
surrounding him.
Right.
It pushes him to
Shoot.
defy norms,
And to break the rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
to challenge authority,
Yeah. He doesn't like being told what to do.
and to create a path for himself
That's
that's anything but conventional.
unconventional. Yeah, he's blazing his own trail.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
let's circle back to
Ooh.
those allegations of
Cult-like behavior.
cult-like behavior.
Begin SPAC Nation.
Yeah.
Okay.
We heard some pretty disturbing accounts from
Oh.
former members,
Who claimed
who claim there's
manipulation,
manipulation,
coercion, even threats of violence.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like they're describing a completely different SPAC Nation.
Than the one he presents.
Yeah.
Right.
These allegations paint
A very different picture.
a very dark picture.
Yeah.
It's crucial
That's
to
right.
give these people a voice.
Yeah, they need to be heard.
They need to be able to share their experiences without feeling judged
or
fearing repercussions.
yeah, feeling safe to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
They describe a culture where you're expected to obey Adigan.
Without question.
Yeah, without question.
Okay.
Anyone who disagrees
Yeah.
or questions his authority
Yeah.
is
It's shunned.
shunned,
Okay.
or even worse,
Threatened.
threatened.
Okay.
They claim that Adigan,
Preys on vulnerable people.
yeah,
Okay.
many of them young
Yeah.
and looking for direction in life.
People who are lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
He gains their trust
Yeah.
and then uses it to
Control them.
control them
Yeah.
and extract money.
Extract money. Okay.
Some even allege
That he has
that Adigan has a network
of enforcers.
of enforcers, maybe even
Okay.
gang members,
Uh.
who intimidate anyone who dares to.
Speak out against it.
Yeah.
Okay.
These allegations are incredibly serious.
Yeah, if they're true.
If they're true,
It's
it raises huge concerns about the safety
yeah.
and well-being
Of anyone involved.
of anyone involved with SPAC Nation.
SPAC Nation, yeah.
Adigan's response,
Of course.
is to deny everything.
Deny everything.
He calls these people disgruntled ex-members.
Yeah, with an axe to grind.
Yeah, with axes to grind.
Well,
He
there
points
has been
to
that independent panel.
the independent panel.
SPAC Nation set up.
That SPAC Nation set up to handle grievances, claiming
They haven't found any evidence
they haven't found any evidence
to support these accusations.
Yeah, but the question lingers.
What's that?
Are these just
Isolated cases?
isolated cases
Of people...
of people with personal vendettas?
The vendettas, okay.
Or
Is there something more?
is there something more systemic
Systemic, yeah, like a pattern.
going on within SPAC Nation?
A pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a question that demands
A deeper investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proving allegations
Of this kind.
of cult-like behavior
Yeah.
is notoriously difficult.
It's really hard to prove.
Yeah, the line between
A charismatic leader
a charismatic leader
and a manipulative.
and a manipulative cult figure
Yeah.
can be very hard to define.
Hard to define. Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the power dynamics within
Religious groups.
religious groups
Yeah.
can create an environment where,
People feel pressured
where people feel pressured to conform,
to conform. Yeah.
where they're afraid to speak up,
Afraid to speak up.
and where they're reluctant to seek help
From the outside.
from outside authorities.
Yeah.
They might not even realize.
That they're in a harmful situation.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we make sense
Of these conflicting
of
accounts.
these conflicting accounts? Yeah, how do we...
How do we figure out the truth
Yeah.
in a situation where
Rocket
emotions...
running high.
Yeah. And
Evidence scarce.
evidence is scarce.
Yeah.
And the stakes
The stakes are so high.
are so high.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
It's a tough challenge.
Yeah.
It requires approaching this story with both empathy,
Empathy.
critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
Oh, yeah.
We have to listen to those who say they were harmed,
Yeah.
but we also have to
Auditory.
consider Adigan's perspective.
His side of the story.
Yeah.
Right.
And acknowledge that everyone deserves a fair process.
A fair chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's up to,
Each of you listening
each of you listening.
to weigh the evidence,
Yeah.
evaluate the arguments
And draw your own conclusions.
about
Pastor
Nation.
SPAC Nation.
Yeah, this is
The-
a fascinating case.
A fascinating and complex case.
Yep.
It raises big questions about
faith,
power
identity,
and the role of religion.
in today's society.
Yeah, in today's society.
Yeah, big questions.
Big questions.
We're sure we're not done yet.
Oh, no.
There's still more to uncover,
Ooh.
more layers
Okay.
to peel back.
I'm ready.
Stay with us
Okay.
as we continue our deep dive into the world
Okay.
of Pastor Toby Adigba.
All right, we're back
Back again.
for the final part
Final part.
of our deep dive
Into the world.
into the world of Pastor Toby Adigba.
It's been a journey.
It has been quite a journey
Yeah, for sure.
so far.
Definitely.
I have to admit, I'm still trying to process everything.
Oh, yeah. We've learned.
It's a lot to take in. It's like we've been given this puzzle
Yeah.
with a ton of missing pieces.
Missing pieces.
And every time we think we're close
Yeah.
to seeing the full picture,
Uh-huh.
another piece of information pops up
Oh, yeah.
and throws us off track.
And we're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly the challenge
Yeah.
when dealing with a figure like Adigba.
It's not straightforward.
No.
He's,
There's so many
yeah.
conflicting stories.
So many unanswered questions.
So many unanswered questions.
Yeah. And it's easy to get lost.
It's like a maze.
And this maze of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allegations, denials, justifications.
You don't know what to believe.
Right. And we can't lose sight of the fact
Yeah.
that real people
Real people.
are at the heart of this story.
Yeah. This isn't just an abstract concept.
You know, these are people.
People whose lives have been affected.
Yeah. For better or worse.
For better or worse.
By Adigba and SPAC Nation.
Right.
That's a really important point.
Yeah. We can't forget about that.
We've talked about the people
Yeah.
who feel they were harmed,
Yeah. The people
who allege manipulation and abuse.
Yeah. Who felt taken advantage of.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to
We have to listen to them.
give their stories weight
Absolutely.
and recognize the potential
Yeah.
for real damage.
For real harm. But we also need to acknowledge
Right.
the people
The people who
credit Adigba with it.
who say he helped them.
Yeah, turning their lives around.
Yeah. Who found solace in community.
Within SPAC Nation.
Within SPAC Nation.
Yeah.
Their experiences are part of the story, too.
Absolutely. We have to look at the whole picture.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are the young people
Yeah.
who were drawn to his
Charisma.
charisma,
Yeah.
who connected with his message of
Hope.
hope and empowerment.
Empowered.
They saw him as
A mentor.
a mentor, a guide,
A role model.
someone who understood their struggles,
Yeah.
and offered a path.
To a better life.
Yeah, to a better life.
Okay.
They point to the positive changes they've seen,
White.
like the decrease in gang violence,
Right.
the support for building businesses,
Yeah.
the sense of belonging that SPAC Nation fostered.
Fostered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those people,
Yeah.
Adigan is
No hero.
a hero.
Right.
Yeah. A light in what might have felt like a very dark world.
A beacon of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their
Voices matter too.
Their voices matter too.
We can't just dismiss them.
No.
Right.
And it complicates the narrative.
It does.
Right.
And that's important to recognize.
And we can't just simplify this into a good guy versus bad guy story.
No, it's not that simple. It's much more nuanced.
Far more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a reminder
Yeah.
that even when we're dealing with serious allegations and controversy,
There can still be
there can still be genuine,
good intentions.
good intentions and positive outcomes.
Positive outcomes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not always black and white.
This doesn't erase
No.
the experiences of those who feel harmed.
Of course not.
It doesn't excuse
Any wrongdoing.
any wrongdoing.
And it doesn't diminish the need
for accountability.
for accountability
If there's been any.
if there's been any harm done.
Right.
Yeah.
But it forces us
Yeah.
to grapple with the complexities of human nature.
Yeah, to accept that people are complicated.
Yeah.
To accept that people are capable of both good and bad.
Good and bad sometimes at the same time.
Sometimes even simultaneously.
Yeah.
It makes the whole thing much more challenging.
To assess.
Yeah, to assess.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why the story is so compelling.
I know, right?
It's a case study in the power of belief.
The power of belief.
Yeah, the magnetic pull
Of charisma.
and the potential
Yeah.
for both.
For both.
Great redemption,
And insidious.
exploitation. Yeah, it's both sides of the coin.
It's both sides.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what's resonated.
With you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What stood out to you?
Honestly, for me, it's
Yeah.
the sheer boldness of the man. He seems completely unafraid
Yeah.
to challenge conventions,
Right.
to push the limits,
Burst the boundary.
to invite controversy.
Yeah, he's not afraid to make waves.
Whether you agree with him or not,
Yeah.
you have to admire his audacity.
You gotta admire that.
that-
drive.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
That boldness is...
Both his strength
Yeah.
and his weakness.
To strengthen his weakness.
Yeah, it draws people in,
Yeah.
but it also gets him in trouble.
It gets him in trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing that really strikes me
Yeah.
is
A
the...
clash.
Yeah, the constant clash of narrative.
Oh, yeah, everyone's got their own version of the truth.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's got their own version of the
Yeah,
truth.
it's like everyone has their own version of the truth.
Yeah. Their own take on Adigan.
Yeah. Their own interpretation
Yeah.
of Adigan and what he represents.
Right. And it's hard to know
Yeah.
what to believe.
That's exactly why it's so dangerous
Yeah.
to rely on.
There's one source, a single source of information. One perspective.
Even one as compelling
Yeah.
as this interview.
As this interview,
We have to
we have to do our own digging.
actively seek out different perspectives.
Yeah. Look at all sides.
Dig deeper
Be skeptical of easy answers.
and be skeptical of easy answers.
Yeah. Don't just take things at face value.
Yeah. So, what do you think happens next?
What's next for Adigan
What's the next chapter for Adigan?
and SPAC Nation?
And SPAC Nation.
Well, the legal battles
Yeah.
are far from over.
Still a lot to play out.
His immigration status
Right.
is still up in the air.
And the financial investigations are ongoing.
They're still looking into the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way to know how much lasting damage.
Damage to his reputation.
Yeah.
Right.
These allegations will do.
Even if he's cleared.
Even if he's ultimately cleared of wrongdoing,
Yeah.
it's hard to come back from that.
It's hard to shake that kind of cloud of suspicion. But Adigan hasn't given up.
He's still fighting
Yeah. He's still fighting for his vision.
for what he believes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing how this story has unfolded so far.
Yeah.
With its twists and turns.
It's been a roller coaster.
It has.
Yeah.
Who knows what he'll do next?
What's next for Adigan?
That's the question.
Yeah.
I think this is a story.
That we'll be watching
Yeah, we'll be watching for a long time.
for a while.
It reminds us
Yeah.
that truth
Yeah.
is often,
slippery.
slippery.
It's not always clear cut.
No, that power can be
both alluring
both alluring
and corrupting.
and corrupting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that even,
And that even the most captivating leaders
yeah, even the most charismatic people
can have hidden depths.
Hidden depths. Yeah, you never know
We never really know.
what's going on.
So what's the one thing
The one thing
you hope our listeners will take away
from this deep dive.
from this deep dive? I'd say it's this.
Okay.
Never stop asking questions.
Never stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Don't take things at face value.
No, do your own research.
Be critical.
Be
Consumers of information.
Yeah, think for yourself.
And always consider
Multiple perspectives.
multiple perspectives.
Right.
Don't let charisma
Yeah.
blind you to potential
Red flags.
red flags.
Right. And be willing to challenge
Your own assumptions.
your own assumptions.
The world is full of figures.
Yeah.
Like Pastor Tobi Adigba.
Complicated figures.
Complex and contradictory.
Yeah, full of contradictions.
It's up to each of us
to navigate.
to navigate that complexity.
Yeah.
With
Open minds.
Yeah, with open minds.
And a healthy dose
And a healthy dose of discernment.
of discernment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep exploring,
Keep exploring.
questioning,
Keep questioning.
and keep learning.
Keep learning.